Hi, everybody. This is John McCAIN. I'd like to give you a brief rundown on some of the provisions that are in the legislation, including some that directly affect Arizona. But first of all, it is the biggest reform bill that's been passed in 30 years. It reforms military retirement. It reforms acquisition. It reforms the way and reductions in staffs and overhead, and saves billions of dollars in these reforms. In the retirement system today, 85% of those who serve in the military receive no financial benefit because they don't stay for 20 years. In this legislation, 85% will, because after 2 years and 1 month, they will be able to be having a form such as is in the matching 401ks. We have reformed the acquisition system, which has been responsible for so many outrageous and unacceptable cost overruns, in that we now have the service chiefs directly involved in the decision making and responsible for any cost overruns that occur. We have a 7.5% for 4 years, each year for 4 years, up to 30%. Up to 20% reduction in overhead and staffs of the commands in the military. And there are other reform provisions in it as well. It has pay raises for our members of our military. It has changes in pay and bonuses, and we have streamlined many of the other provisions, which I'd be glad to enumerate if you would like. The legislation prevents any premature retirement of the A-10, that are, as many of which are stationed at Davis-Monthan. When the A-10 is now carrying out a vital role, there's squadrons now over in flying out of Incirlik base in Turkey, and so and it is regarded as the finest close air support weapon in our inventory. Just last month, as I mentioned, 12 A-10s were deployed in the fight against ISIS. It prevents the Air Force from following through on its proposal to retire 7 EC-130 Compass Call electronic attack fleet airplanes that are also at Davis-Monthan. These jamming and surveillance aircraft are critical to protecting our airmen and women from sophisticated electronic attacks and conflicts across the Middle East, such as Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It ensures also that our businesses continue to manufacture and innovate new weapon systems and defense technologies that our troops need to defend and protect the nation. It fully funds the Army's request for 64 Apache helicopters to be remanufactured at Boeing in Mesa. It increases the military budget to purchase 49 additional Tomahawk missiles, which will be manufactured at Raytheon in Tucson. It increases the military's budget by $140 million to purchase additional anti-tank missiles, which will be manufactured at Raytheon in Tucson. Provides funding for military construction projects in Arizona, such as new storage and cleaning facilities at Davis-Monthan and Yuma, new aircraft maintenance hangar at Luke, and a much-needed renovations at Fort Huachuca. It allows the transfer of approximately 150 to 200 unneeded mobile homes from the Department of Defense to Native American tribes at no cost to the American taxpayer. The Navajos and other tribes have long advocated for these transfers. It includes several measures that strengthen Arizona's border security operations, including authorization for increased border security operations, additional surveillance and intelligence support, and additional support to combat illicit drug and human trafficking in Central America, and a number of measures provisions that improve the lives of our military service members and their families while caring for the ill, wounded, and injured. I'm told that the President's spokesperson said the President would be signing the bill. We will have it over to the White House today and hope that he will pass it soon. There is also the issue of Guantanamo, which I'd be glad to discuss with you if you want, but right now, if there's any questions or comments, I'd like to hear from you.
If you have a question for Senator McCain, please press 5-star now. Please press 5-star, and when you're called upon for a question, you will hear that your line has been unmuted.
All right. Then we're done here.
I think we have one question.
Okay.
Hi, this is Dave Wittner from the Arizona Daily Star Center. I have a question about the A10. This preserves the A10 for another year here. Actually rolls back some of the authorized BAI cuts from my reading of it. And I just wondered what the future holds then. If we keep going year to year here, but I know there's another report due out. Could you just talk a little bit about what you see here in the next, after this year reprieve, what's going to happen with the A10?
Well, I've been in discussion with some Air Force generals, and it's pretty obvious that with the need to deploy the A10s, given the situation in Iraq and Syria, that it's very likely that perhaps there may be a pause here. The Air Force has not made the final decision, but it's hard to justify sending aircraft into combat that you are, or weapon systems into combat that you are about urging a retirement of. So I'm guardedly optimistic, not totally optimistic, but guardedly optimistic that the Air Force would revisit this issue, at least for the short term, given the increases in tensions and challenges and conflict throughout the Middle East.
Thank you.